Hello, everyone. Welcome to their Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by Kathryn Wyatt. She is the owner of Blue Onyx Arts. She is a photographer, artist, gardener, herbalist in training, also an emotion code practitioner in training, and a certified Akashic Record reader. Thank you so much for being here today, Kathryn. I'm so happy you're here.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's such an honor.
So one of the things I kind of want to jump into is that through your Akashic Record training, you help artists that are feeling blocked or stuck or may need a guide to help them maneuver through rough waters. So tell me, I guess let's go back a second. What kind of led you to becoming an Akashic Record practitioner?
So I was first introduced to Josephine Hardman,
Sure.
who you know,
Yes.
and who is one of the most beautiful souls that I know.
Oh,
And
she's lovely. She's
I
amazing.
know, isn't
So
she?
down to earth.
I know. And so funnily enough, through social media, which I'm not on anymore,
Yeah.
and I would have a couple readings a year
Yeah.
to just unstick myself if I
Yeah.
was in a rut or anything like that. And then right after one of her last reading, it was a reading that had a road in it. And I was like, oh, I know that road. I've seen that road before. And she was like, well, why don't you sort of meditate on this? And
Yeah.
it's kind of a long journey through this process.
Mhm.
But as I was meditating on it, I realized that when I was 13, we moved to England, and it was a really big transition for me. It was the second time we had lived in England, but at 13, it's
That's a
sort of like,
huge transition at
yeah,
13.
exactly. And I realized that when I moved, I gave up my imagination
Wow.
to be able to fit in, to the life that I was starting. And I needed to bring my 13-year-old back to that road because she needed to do this with me.
Yeah.
And all we had to do was step off the road onto the grass. Like, it wasn't anything difficult, but
Right.
it took a lot for her. So this was all through, I would sit in the morning and just meditate,
Hmm.
basically. And like, we started in the middle of the road, and then we sort of inched bit by bit, and then as we held hands and we
Hmm.
stepped off the road, and we ended up going through a crack and down into, like, I think of it as like a rabbit's burrow.
Yeah.
And this started a week long everyday meditation, which I ended up, with Josephine's help, realizing that this was a journey. This was like a shamanic journey.
Yeah.
Like, we were journeying into the underworld. And, um, it was this just week long thing. So this was like June to, I guess it would be like the beginning of July,
Sure.
like the end of June to the beginning of July
Uh-huh.
in 2020. And
Oh, what an interesting time also
I
to be
know.
going through this. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like this awakening.
Yeah.
And so as I was doing this is like all imagined. Like, this is something that I've
Yeah.
done my whole life, is like imagining as a
Hmm.
child. And so this was nothing new,
Yeah.
this is just stuff that I was used to.
Yeah.
And then once that sort of that journey came to an end,
Hmm.
it came to an end with me receiving wings and being able to fly. This was the whole, like, journey through. There was blue phoenixes involved and all
Oh
this
my goodness. I love this.
stuff. And uh the end of July, I got an email that said, do you, like, basically she sent out this email that said, do you want to learn how to be an Akashic record reader? And it felt like the email came directly to me. Like, she hadn't sent it to anybody else, and she sent it directly to
Wow.
me,
Calling to you.
calling to me.
Yeah.
And like, I think I want to do this. And then
Absolutely.
originally I wanted to just do it for myself. And then at some point I realized I need to do this for other people too.
Absolutely.
Like, I
Wow.
can't, yeah, like, I've always had the need to help people,
Hmm.
like, to, get them, I don't know, just in any way possible to help. Um, And so I started the certification
Mhm.
in September, finished it in November. It was very intense.
Yes.
I had to deal with ego stuff and, you know, my inner child stuff and like pushing past the boundaries of like, I can't do this, you know, I'm not good at this, blah, blah, blah. But once I did my first reading for myself, I was like,
Mhm.
oh, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same as I've been doing my entire life. It's exactly the same as this meditation journey that I just did.
Yeah.
And then it sort of felt like I was coming back to my 13-year-old self.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really great. And it just made me realize that like I've been a visual person my
Mhm.
entire life. But I didn't realize that not everybody's like that. People don't
No.
like when I hear people talking and telling me things, I see
See it.
what,
I love that.
yeah. And it's a lot of times it's just in the background.
Mhm.
But I didn't realize that not everybody's like that. I thought that everybody is like that. You know,
No.
that's like our humanity. We think there's a word for it where we think everybody
We're
thinks
just the same.
yeah, exactly the same. So that's how I got started. And then after I finished my certification
Mhm.
process, I sort of was thinking about like, what would I like to do with this?
Right.
And because I'm an artist, because my husband's an artist, it seemed like sort of the natural place to go
Mhm.
because artists really deal with their egos a lot.
Right.
Um, there's a lot of ego bullying there. There's a lot of, you know, what are you thinking? You can't do this. Somebody can do it better than you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all of
Mhm.
that ego stuff that comes in. And artists get stuck. Like we energetically just get stuck in places. And I've sought out hypnotherapists, sought out acupuncturists to just unstick.
Right.
And it's almost like, you know, we get in these ruts and we just can't move forward.
Mhm.
And I feel like the records can really help like shine a light on something that maybe they weren't seeing or like
Right.
clear something out that maybe is stuck there that just
Okay.
needs, you know, or you know, a healing in the records or whatever. But it can really help just get a different perspective or get um a clear idea about like which direction to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. I what I love about the records is I feel like for myself and for clients, and I would imagine the same thing for you, they're great for clarity
Yeah.
or and also for confirmation that no, you are on the right path.
Yeah.
You're exactly where you need to be. And maybe I can give you some little hints and tips and to help you kind of like you said, clear off that energy, help you be a little more shiny and help you to move forward. And I think it's amazing that you do that for artists because I feel like as an artist, like you said, you get stuck and maybe your ego starts taking over and it's almost this limiting belief that keeps running around in
Oh
your
my God.
mind. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and then for you, as you became a Akashic Record practitioner and a reader, did you find that your artistic services, because I know that you're also an artist doula, did you find that you were more in tune and you were more inspired with your art by going to the Akashic Records?
Oh yeah, because
Love
it's
that.
so visual, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much rich stuff, and even when I mean, and the Akashic work that I is not limited to visual arts.
Oh, I
It's
love that. Yeah, for
fireworks,
everything.
meditations, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like any art
Because I'm
form.
not visual at all. I'll call it, I'm not. And I'm like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, to be clairvoyant, but that's my ego coming in. And I know that my intuitive senses are different, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
exactly. And that's the beauty of the records is
Yeah,
that it can come in any way. Like
right,
if you're clairaudient, that's the way it's going to
right.
come, you know, which is so fantastic that there is this.
All different realms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's however like because there's sometimes when I read that it's not clairvoyant at all. It's just knowing, you know.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and because, you know, and I do read for artists and I read for non-artists.
Hmm.
So sometimes the non-artist needs something else,
Yeah,
but
a different push.
yeah, from someplace else
Hmm.
where sometimes the artist, because you know, when I'm reading and it's visual, there's just a lot of metaphors in there. And like, you know, this means this. And the artists that I read for get it. They're like,
Right.
I totally get it. Yeah. Um,
Because
so
it's
yeah,
almost like their own dictionary. Like you
yeah,
don't necessarily know what my dictionary is, but as you're doing the reading, you're trusting the information that you're giving out, knowing that yes, this may not mean anything to me, but to you, this teacup means a lot.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and my visuals are just like so crazy that I've had to just kind of let go in the records and be like, in the records, anything can happen.
I love this.
And I will let anything happen. Like I
Mhm.
never hold back. There's been like I've had to do healing for people where I've like taken off their skulls and like had to get in there. I mean, but I trust it completely.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of walking through that dark wood to get to wherever it is that I need to go,
Mhm.
on this person's behalf. I'm never afraid
Yeah.
in the records. There is no fear.
No, because you're always protected.
Absolutely. And it's part of me,
Yeah.
it's its own river, but it's
Mhm.
also like I'm a part of that flow too. Um, and I've also had to learn to like not hold back with information and just lay it out and be like, I know this sounds weird. I know this, whatever, like you might think I'm crazy, but this is what I'm seeing. And a lot of the times the people are like, "Oh yeah, I get that." I'm like, "Oh, thank goodness, because it sounds really weird."
I mean, I think that's perfect because as a reader, I mean, you're reading with integrity and also with compassion, and you're not putting judgment to it.
Exactly.
You're allowing it to kind of come out the way in which it needs to come out, and you're trusting the guidance because you know you're just the channel and that your client is receiving this beautiful information that you're giving to them. And it may not make sense. Like, I mean, sometimes probably for you too, you've had a reading where I'm trying to think of something that I may have said. I don't know why frogs are coming to mind, but it's like it just may seem silly or unusual, but and the more is it does this happen to you where if you do not give the message, it's just going to keep louder
Yes.
and louder and louder, and they're not going to give it up until you say it?
Yes. Or I'll have this visual and be like, "Okay, I need to move over here," and it will be like zoom all the
Nope.
way. Like, "Oh, okay, I need to talk about this thing," because they're not letting it go.
Oh, I love that. And then let me ask you this question because this is a conversation I also have with Josephine. I would imagine you probably did as well. Being an Akashic record reader, do you resonate with also being a psychic, or do you not resonate with that?
I don't resonate with that.
Yeah,
Um,
a
because
little bit different.
it is different.
Yeah.
And, I don't have everybody has the ability to do these things.
Hmm.
We are all divine beings. We're all born with these gifts.
Hmm.
It just depends on whether we want to dive into them.
Awaken. Yeah,
Yeah, and this is for everyone.
absolutely.
It's not for the elite. It's not for people who are gifted. Anybody can learn anything.
Hmm.
Um, but I have found that like working with energy on it right now, it's because of the emotion code, it's a daily basis,
Yeah.
that it is opening up certain
Intuitive gifts.
intuitive things. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just like working with a lot of energy.
Hmm.
Um, there's kind of a flip side to that where I get sort of foggy after a certain number, like I'll get foggy or, tired or whatever. But I think that that's just sort of the training wheels that are on right
Yeah.
now. Because it happened when I was doing the Akashic work too. I mean, really like that ego that comes in. I mean, I remember doing Akashic work when I first started doing it, and I would have to read for people because that's
Yeah.
part of the thing. And I would cry at night before the reading because I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then as the years, I mean, it's only been 2 years, but
Yeah.
as the years gone by, it's not a problem anymore. And same with the emotion code work. Like there was a point where I was like, I can't do this. And then I kind of was like, oh, that's not me talking. That's the ego talking.
Right.
Okay, you go away. Like you're just a liar. You're not here for any good. I mean, obviously the ego has its place because we're human. But as far as like keeping people down,
Yeah.
um, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what this is. And so it has taken time to
Mhm.
just get used to that ego coming in and trying to sideline me.
Right.
Um, and it just takes a lot shorter amount of time to figure out what that is. So
I
yeah, but
find that when I'm doing readings, I put the ego as a conscious bystander. So it's
Mhm.
part of the intention that I'm setting when I'm opening up the records, either for myself or others. I'm like, okay, girlfriend, you're over here.
Yeah, I actually had to personify mine.
Oh, I love
My,
this.
my ego is a teenage boy who I have to put to the side and
Yeah.
feed him popcorn to get him to shut up. So he's got to eat popcorn. And then he has to watch the screen of the things
Yeah.
that are happening. So he can sit there and watch it,
Yeah.
but he may not be a part of it and he may not speak.
Oh my gosh, I love this. It's like I almost see him eating like taffy. Like I'm gonna use that myself. My son is 13 years old and
Uh-huh.
he's
So is
interested
mine.
right now.
Mhm. Yes, they are, aren't they?
They're so fun. Love it. Boys, I can never I'm not cool. And yeah, everything's mid, whatever that means. And yeah, anyway.
Yeah, that
Kids,
sounds
all right, moving on. This is about you, not about me. I love this. So let me ask you, did you always, because you said that, and you're absolutely correct, everyone has intuitive abilities. Everyone has the ability to heighten their sense of perception and be connected to source and divine and angels and our masters, guides, teachers. When you were younger, did you find that you had these intuitive abilities and maybe you didn't have a name to it yet?
no.
Oh, okay. I like that. No, absolutely not. Shush.
No. No, I
But
didn't.
that's okay because you give power to those maybe older in life that are like, hey, I know that I haven't, because I really probably didn't it myself. I think I shut down a lot. You can open up these intuitive abilities when you're ready to open them. Please go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it for a while, when I would listen to podcasts and they would say, "Oh, have you always had these?" And people would be like, "Yeah, since I could remember,
Since
I
I
could."
was 4 years old and
I
grandma
know,
sat
I was
on
like,
my bed.
"But what about me?"
Same. Thank
Why don't
you.
I have this?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, right. So, no, I was very imaginative, and I think that that's sort of like my superpower. I could imagine anything. I still can.
Oh,
So,
that's
like,
perfect.
if I was like, I want to paint this room butter yellow, I can stand there and see the room butter
Oh,
yellow.
and
You
see if
know?
it will resonate with you. Oh, I
Yeah,
love that. Oh,
yeah,
that's perfect.
yeah. And I just like I would be in these other worlds as a
Mhm.
kid. We had a pool, and I would do like this meditation where I would like jump out of the water and get a breath of air and like go under the water. And it was like 15-minute meditation I was doing as like probably an 8-year-old,
Oh, I
9-year-old.
love this.
Yeah, in the pool. And it was
Yeah.
just this amazing, like, I think that was probably the first time I ever meditated because I was raised Catholic. So we weren't like, wasn't like meditation was a
No,
thing.
you weren't like, hey, let's work with these angels.
Right. Well, I did actually really love the angels, but
Oh, I love this. Of course you did.
um, and so no, I think what happened was being raised Catholic, I was told over and over again that I wasn't worthy.
Oh.
And going to mass and everything, I embodied the unworthiness.
Mm,
And I remember going to church and like when you say I am not worthy, like really feeling that. And I think that that's where those blocks started. I'm
absolutely.
still chipping away those
Absolutely.
blocks
Healing is
of,
never done.
of worthiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's sort of been a lifetime thing of like removing this unworthiness from
Hmm.
myself. Unfortunately, Catholicism had a huge part in that. But um, I try to raise my children
Open.
differently
Yeah.
than that. Yeah, much more open to
Hmm.
like, my son, my 13-year-old son is totally into it. And he'll ask questions and he says he can see auras,
I
which
love
I
that.
think he probably can to an
Yeah,
extent. He wants to like learn all of these things. So I like to bring him into it
absolutely.
a little bit to just, talk about what I'm doing. I've got them both like doing the emotion code.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. So which is a little different. I think of the emotion code more as like a daily brushing, whereas the Akashic is like going to the
Your deep
dentist,
cleaning.
deep cleaning and
Yeah,
like really getting sparkly and things like
yeah.
that. Um, but yeah, so it wasn't like an actual
Right.
like thing as a kid. But it was a lot of imagination. I think
Mhm.
that that's whether or not I had any gifts, it all came in through imagination.
Absolutely.
I remember living in England when I was 13 and them talking about ghosts and things like that. And I was like, just so you know, I never want to see a ghost. Like now I wouldn't bother me, but
Right.
back then I was terrified. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like now, because I didn't really understand it. Um,
Hmm.
so that was like a pact that I had of
Like,
like,
thank you. These are my boundaries.
yes, these are my boundaries, do not cross them. Um, yeah, yeah. So no, it was definitely like as I headed into 40, that's because I had a couple bouts of postpartum depression, few years of that with each child.
Mhm.
That was like my mud that I needed to wade through in
Yeah.
order to come out. And then once I hit like 38, 40, that's when things started to open up.
Right. Is
And
that what led you to getting readings, Akashic Record readings?
what would say that again?
Is that what led you to starting to get readings?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, um, I didn't really get into the spiritual realm. Like I started writing in the morning.
Hmm.
I would actually hear, the voices of either my guides or the
Yeah.
collective consciousness and these beautiful words. This was in 2015. These beautiful words would just flow out. And I would think to myself, I'm not worthy of this. Like, I'm not worthy of this beauty that's like coming out
Yeah.
onto the page. And, um, it started to get fainter and fainter and fainter for over about 2 years. And I think it was because I just blocked myself
Right.
off because of the unworthiness. But then I also realized that if I had kept on that track, I would contribute everything to something outside of myself.
Oh,
And it's
beautiful.
not, it's outside of
Valuable
myself.
point.
It's also inside of myself.
Yes.
I am part of the production. I think of it as this big play, and that I'm, you got this stage people, you got the lighting people, you got the actors, you got the directors. Like this is a huge part of the production, and I'm just one facet of
Hmm.
it. But it's not just outside of myself. It comes through me and it's part of me too. Just like it's
Absolutely.
part of everybody.
Hmm.
These things that come to us, it's because we're joined by, the energy of the universe. We are part of that energy of the universe. And we
Absolutely.
forget. We're so easy to forget, you know?
Yeah, it's hard when you get in your day-to-day minutia of life, and then it's like, oh, wait a second, I'm a soul having a human experience, and how can I bring healing to others and to myself? And yeah, that's got to be. I love the fact that you're like it's an everyday reminder. Well, we need to be. We're part of this collective consciousness, and we
Yeah,
can either be a positive force of it, or we can be a not so positive force of it.
right.
And
Right.
that's amazing.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
one of the things that you are is that you're an herbalist in training, and I think that's phenomenal. And I want to ask you this: what led you to kind of wanting to learn to be an herbalist?
I've actually always wanted to learn to be a herbalist.
Love this.
Ever since I was little and like would make just like I was probably, 10 maybe, and I would just like make these like concoctions
Oh,
with
that's perfect.
plants, like mushed up
Yeah.
plants and water and like these slurries. Obviously, I would never ingest them. But like it was pretending. That's the thing. My whole life was pretending these things. And I had always wanted to work with plants. I was just always too afraid that I would screw something up or like not be able to do it or
Yeah.
not be able to learn it or whatever. And there was a point in my herbalism class where I was like kind of frozen, and I was like, this must be like a past life thing because there's no reason
Oh, so
that,
interesting.
yeah, that I should be so frozen, like not being able to move forward with this simple, like making tinctures. It's not that hard if you learn the steps, or like
Yeah.
mixing ratios of things. And I think once I had that epiphany of like, this isn't me, this is something else, I I broke through that barrier and I was able to move forward.
So with your healing work, your Akashic record work, do you also go into past life healing?
Yeah, I love past life
Me
healing.
too.
I love that, and contracts are like one of my favorite.
Oh, yes, girl. Tell me more. Did you, when you first started to learn how to do this, did you look at your own contracts?
No, actually, I didn't.
No, I like that.
Oh, no,
No.
that's not true. That's not true. One of the readings with Josephine was a contract, and that's
Oh,
actually how I first got involved. And it was somebody who I'm close to, that was having a lot of, just like, I found myself thinking about them in a
ooh,
negative way. Like I'd be in the garden and like they would just be
hop
part
in.
of my thoughts, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you in the garden with me? This is like my sacred space. And like, here you are in my head. And so I had a reading with Josephine for that.
Yeah.
And she's like, there's a contract here.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we broke the contract. It was it was actually a mothering contract. And the whole thing. And she's so great. She was just like, I trust that you can do it. Like, here's the steps to do it. And this was before,
Yeah.
and she just let me do it on my own,
I
and
love
it was
this.
it was great, and it was amazing because as soon as I wrote the letter to say I realized that this is what happened, but
Mhm.
it doesn't need to happen anymore in this lifetime. You are released from me, all of that. As soon as I burned that letter, I was like, oh, I feel so much better. And I found like I wasn't thinking about this person
Oh
anymore.
my gosh, I love this. And
It
now
was,
you're able to help your clients with, and let me ask you this question. When you have a client that's coming to you, are you aware, how do I want to ask this question? There's like I'm trying to get there. Take me a second. It's almost like, do they know that they need to do contract work with you, or do they have an overarching intention of like, I feel stuck, I feel blocked, and
yeah.
then you dig in and then you find the contract?
Yeah, I don't normally find contracts unless they pop up.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I did have one client who had a contract, and I didn't know it until I saw
Mm.
her. It was with this other person, until I saw her and this other person signing. I was like,
Okay.
and that was the first time I ever worked with contracts with myself, doing them
Mhm.
with other people. And it's that signing gesture of like, we're signing this contract. And it
Yeah.
ended up that this contract was with one single person for like 5 or 6 lifetimes. And she just like had to clear these things over a period of 6 weeks,
Ooh.
and has a completely different relationship with this person now than she did before. I mean, really like tearfully healing, amazing what contract
Aw,
can do for people.
I
Yeah.
love that.
It frees them, it frees them from being a part of somebody else that has nothing to do with this lifetime. And then you find that you're reacting to things in this
Mhm.
lifetime that are just like completely blown out of proportion. And it was because of something that happened, before.
Yeah.
And you're like, why am I reacting to this? It's because of what happened before in the contracts that you made.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
And
Anything that you might want to share, and it doesn't have to tell about a client or anything like that, of a maybe a moment that you're doing an Akashic record healing reading that you're like, oh, this is amazing work that I'm doing right now.
yeah, I would say that the biggest work I did was with that
Oh, I love
contract.
this.
because it was so bound. They
Mm,
were so bound in so many lifetimes,
mhm.
and I had her do meditation on this, and the
Ooh.
stuff that was coming up, she was basically going back into these lifetimes and realizing the abuse that had happened so many times over and over and over again. And it just became so, at the end of that work, like the first, so we found this contract and I was like, okay, let me get back to you with like what we're gonna, like the next steps that we're gonna
Oh,
take.
wow.
And then we did the first, because what you do is you write the old contract and you write the new
Oh,
contract,
okay.
and you burn the old contract and you read the new contract. So we did the first one, it was during COVID, we did the first one via Zoom together, just so that I could open up the records for her,
Mhm.
and have her do it in a safe place.
Ooh,
And then she did the ones by herself after that. And it just was so transforming
yeah.
to for her to be with this person and not be triggered by them at all in any way.
Mhm.
And I just like all the time I'm like, I'm just so honored to be doing this for you,
Aw.
like I feel so just privileged to be a part of this work with you. Yeah, it was really powerful, really powerful. And even now, like the triggers are still like completely gone, and she can have a relationship with this person.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I mean, I feel like in every reading, there's a point where I'm just like feel so blessed
Oh, yeah.
to be working with people. Or like people,
Absolutely.
everybody's struggling, and it's hard to watch people struggling, and just to be able to like show them one step that they
Mm.
can go in a direction is enough.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah.
it's like almost like we clean off a little bit of the lens,
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yes.
and then like, and for you, like, being that you work with artists, I would imagine now after they have a session with you, I'd be curious, do you get to see the artwork and the kind of what they create after you've kind of, helped them to move on a little bit? Have you seen any of
No,
that?
no, I don't. I normally let it go.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah. I
I'd be
just
like, Catherine, look at what I did.
no, I figure like what they needed at that time was what they needed.
That's perfect.
And I try not to hold on to knowing.
I love that.
Yeah, because it's
Well, and
just
I think it's almost like you're just allowing it to go to the universe and know that you, like you said, it's one piece in this collective consciousness that you've able to kind of give back to them to help them to move forward.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I love this. I'm going to ask you this. When somebody books a session with you, what kind of reading style, healing style do you have? Some people are compassionate, loving, straightforward, funny.
Um, what's my reading style? I try, like I feel like the records have an amazing sense of humor.
Oh,
So
don't they?
try to
Don't
keep
they?
things fairly light,
I like
but
that.
yet like stuff will come up and I'll get teary when like I've hit on something.
Yeah,
I am compassionate and I am supportive.
perfect.
I I am straightforward in a kind of sideways way, like
You
I know I
you
need to.
get to it,
Yes.
but in a very loving way.
Yes. Where like sometimes I'll kind of be like, so I need to say this to you because they're not letting it go, and just, be open to it,
Oh my gosh, I love this. I
right?
love this. It's so
Because
true though.
I know, because I'm not the type of person to just like lay it out and like,
Right.
here you go. That's just not me,
That's
Like
perfect.
I'm there to support these people,
Yeah.
and artists are very sensitive, I mean that's how we are by nature.
Yeah.
Um, so I try to do it in a, there's always laughs,
Mm,
there's always joking, which I think is really important to
very
just,
important. Keep
you
the
know,
vibe high.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I would say that that's probably my style, my style.
Have you
Yeah.
ever found that when you're because you said this is that the records have a sense of humor that you're kind of bringing in some spiciness. sometimes I'll open up the records and I'll be doing a reading and I'll say, this may be inappropriate, but I need to talk about this. You
Huh.
need to get in touch more with your, and I'm like, I don't want to say this, but they won't let up. And they're like, we got to go there.
Yep. I know. Well, that's the thing. Like, they won't let you.
No,
You
move on.
tried it. Yeah, they won't let you. Like, you have. Yeah, it's just, yeah. You have to say what's there because they won't let it go.
They won't. And then I don't know about for you, but for me, I'll bring in I think you do this too. Like I'll bring in their team, their spiritual team. And I find that I'm bringing up one of my clients that I have in my mind, and she's one of my dear friends. And but she can be very spicy and she can have very colorful language. And so she knows when I'm on track, if I'm like, and she's like, that's my guides. Like, and it's, and she gets a kick in the butt, but how they come across is very flavorful.
Well, I think that that's kind of, everybody has their own thing. And I think that the beauty of the records is it gives people what they need at the time
Yes.
that they need it,
Yes.
however that comes through. And I think as, record readers, we just need to be open to saying and doing and just speaking whatever we're seeing, whatever we're hearing, whatever, we're knowing. And that, I think that's a good reader. I think a good reader doesn't censor themselves.
Absolutely. And I feel like with the Akashic Records, I mean, we're tapping into the book of life. It's the soul book. And there's so much information in which that we can kind of pull forward for our client. Like you said, you're going to give the information, the healing, what they need in that current moment of now. And that's really important. And that's also, and I would imagine for you too, is that your sessions, when a client leaves, you want them to feel empowered, to feel like, yes, okay, I've got a step now, like you said before, was I was given a road. And I'm going to help you on this road, but ultimately we're also just the training wheels, and a lot of the healing needs to come from within. And
Absolutely.
we can be we can be a lighthouse and help you through, like kind of what you did in the beginning of your journey. You went to Josephine and had these amazing readings, and then it was like, but now I can do this too.
Yeah.
And now you're going into the emotion code, which is very powerful work. And then you're also an artist and you do all these amazing creative expressions. I just think that's phenomenal. And it's what we need now. We need these amazing, artistic, creative beings who are willing to not censor what's coming across, but also do it in a gentle and compassionate way. Because there are others that, I don't know if have you experienced any gatekeeping with the Akashic Records and people that aren't willing to. I haven't really experienced with the Akashic Records, but I've experienced with other things, other healers, like I am all knowing and I know everything.
I haven't experienced it firsthand.
Gotcha. But you've probably seen it.
Yeah, I've definitely, and that's just not, I mean, like I said, we're all part of this.
Yes. I love this.
This isn't for specific people, which I think that, in history it was, they thought that it was only for specific people, and not realizing that, we're all part of this.
Well, it's almost like with Catholicism, there's a hierarchy. I mean, we can bring it down that way. With spirituality, there's not a hierarchy. It's you're part of the universe. And like you said, I'm part of the production. We're all part of the production. I just think that's perfect. And there shouldn't be a hierarchy to, well, you're better than me. No, we're all the same. We're all loving, compassionate beings of part of the spark from the universe, and we're here to play our part. If anyone wants to book a session with you, what is the best way to book a session with you?
The website, blueonyxarts.com.
And I want to ask you this question. How did you come up with the name Blue Onyx Arts?
I
knew this was coming.
Yeah. So well, actually I had gotten the blue onyx sort of randomly, and I was sort of thinking, I was trying to come up with names as I was, forming this business.
Yeah.
And sort of blue onyx came into my life, and then I started sort of reading about like what it's about. It's about balance and basically like opening up to, source and all of that. And I was like, and it sounds good, and it's got, and Y and an X in it. Like, how could you not love it?
That
Like
is so cool.
it felt right. And so, yeah, that's how the blue onyx came into my life first.
That's a
And then
gorgeous
the
for
name,
anyone that's watching the video, she's showing us a beautiful blue onyx, and I just it's so oh, I love it.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty powerful. Um, yeah, so that's the best way is the website. I
Okay.
am not
And
on
you do
social
a weekly, you send out a weekly missive?
media. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I will be very honest, I had to look up that word, and I was like, "Oh, love this." Okay, what is a missive?
A missive is it's more than a letter. So it's sort of like a letter, but yet contains so much more than that. So my missive, because I got off of social
Mhm.
media, will be 2 years in March.
Oh, amazing.
I started sending out this weekly email, and I actually got the idea from a friend of mine in New Mexico who I sort of followed in her footsteps of getting off of social media.
Gotcha.
And so I'm a photographer, and I basically go out every day, and it's that same, the clearing of the lens.
Oh, I love
I
that.
see the world in detail. So I share what I see with anybody who wants to sign up. I also have writing in there, it's all my writing. I've been writing since 2015. And basically it's like photographs and like a little spiritual writing thing, sometimes
Perfect.
more photographs. There's a little bit of personal stuff, but not too much.
Mhm.
And it's basically a time for people to take a deep breath. It comes out Sunday morning. You just take a deep breath. A lot of people grab a cup of tea and sit down and just look. It's different than social media because
It's
you're
different.
not scrolling, scrolling, scrolling,
Yeah.
scrolling. You're actually intentionally sitting down with this
Yeah.
and looking at it. And they're not long.
Mhm.
It doesn't take more than 5 minutes
Yeah.
to look at it. But I really wanted it to be an intentional thing that people did because I love doing it and my intention is there.
Aw.
So I'm putting this intention into the world, and I want people to then take it and just be quiet with it, go into themselves with it. Sometimes people need to read the words a couple times
Yeah.
over to like really get the essence of what is being said. Um, yeah, and it's been amazing. I think I've done almost 100 of them.
Wow. That's amazing.
Right? No, yeah, because it's weeks. So yeah, so 52
Wow.
weeks, it'll
That's
be 2 years,
amazing.
so almost 100 of them. And yeah, it's been really great. It's
Mhm.
also kept my photography ritual going. So
Nice.
yeah, and then I'm not playing by anybody else's rules. I'm only playing by my own.
That's beautiful. That is perfect. And you can sign up for that weekly missive on blueonyx.com.
Blue Onyx Arts at the bottom.
Blue Onyx Arts, I'm sorry, blueonyxarts.com.
Yep,
See,
at the
you knew I
bottom.
was gonna stumble.
And you can also read about it. It's called the Sunday Morning Illuminations.
Oh,
You can read about it on the website.
oh,
There's
that's
all the,
perfect.
yeah,
That's perfect. Any piece of advice that you would like to give to someone that maybe is starting out on their awakening journey before we wrap this up?
absolutely. So the advice that I would give is the advice that I was giving myself as I was doing this. And it was really the one piece of advice that I came back to again and again and again. And it's keep your eyes on your own paper.
Ooh, oh
Like
my
keep your
gosh.
eyes on your own work. Don't look at what anybody else is doing. Don't judge yourself compared to anybody else. Keep your eyes on your own paper.
I I have chills.
Yeah.
I have to no, that is a very powerful piece of advice. Keep your eyes on your own paper. That is amazing. Well, Kathryn Wyatt of Blue Onyx Arts, thank you so much for being part of our spiritual spotlight series. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks so much for having me.